Picking the right fellowship or alliance in Lord of the Rings Rise to War will next level your gameplay. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about all of the functions of an alliance, including the alliance store where you can get a ton of free resources. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and you did not hear me incorrectly. You can get a bunch of free resources from your Alliance store. I'm going to explain this and many more things over the course of this video about how a fellowship works in Lord of the Rings Rise to War. Now, when you have joined a fellowship, there are a number of benefits that you can get, but if you're looking for a good one to join, I would strongly recommend that you make your way over to the top center button that I just pressed. Go over to the rankings, go over to fellowship production, and that's a pretty solid way to find a fellowship that might be worthy of your joining. Keep in mind that there's a 2-hour window after you leave whatever fellowship you might already be in before you can join another one. But once you get into a worthy fellowship, what are the things that you can get? The first thing I want to call your attention to is that little red icon next to the fellowship over here. It is meaningful. It is typically telling you that somebody has requested help. Tapping that little button is going to give you the currency you need to get free items from the shop, which is actually really fantastic. Now, if you tap the help button, you can actually go in and see all of the different requests for help. These are structures that people are building. I had 2004 currency when I helped these 4 people. How much currency do I get? All right, so I got a cool 8 currency. So 2 currency per player that I helped. And it may not seem like much, but trust me, if you jam these all throughout the day, you will accumulate a ton of this currency. And when you tap that contribution button, it points out that you earn contribution not only by helping others, but also by occupying land. So I think that's also another way you can get a little bit of this currency that when you go to the store, there's a number of things you can buy. Let me walk you through the things that you can buy in this store, which does refresh at 0 UTC every single day. There are, in the top row, production boosts. Now, I don't know if the store changes with your fellowship's level, but at the level that I'm at, there's a bunch of production boosts here, and I'm going to claim all of them. 30-minute production boosts, 100 currency a pop. I've been picking these up pretty much every single day. And I'll pop a few of these and show you why they're fantastic. In addition, you can pick up an item that will let you relocate your city. That's going to be a topic for a separate video on how you do that. Also, you can get something that boosts your yield from gathering resources or your experience from doing a mock battle. I'm definitely going to pick that up because I've been doing a lot of mock battling recently. There's also an item here that when you use it can instantly complete a tip. Tips are available in your tavern. And I've not needed to do any tip instantly. So claiming these items is pretty significant. And if you go into your items, so I'm going to go to the items section over here, you tap the little icon that is a plus with some, highlighting around it. You can see I've accumulated a few of these production boosts. Now, it is giving you a 20% boost for 30 minutes. So if I look at, for example, the amount of wood that I'm producing per hour, that is a 60,000 wood per hour. And when I pop the boost, you'll see that it goes up very substantially. It's now 72,000. So I'm not getting that many resources in the grand scheme of things. And if you really want to hack this, you can save up a lot of these items and then use them later on when your production is much, much higher. That said, there's obviously an advantage to having resources sooner in this game, because the sooner you have the resources, the sooner you can reap the benefit. Now, keep in mind that any one of these items that you see here that has the little clock in the upper right-hand corner is something that will disappear by the end of your season. So you have to use it or lose it at the end of the season. And I think some of these things that I'm holding on to, like these building speed-ups, I should probably jam my way through these. And always these items that are not season specific are things that you want to hang on to because they'll be useful to you in a future season. That seems really valuable. So there's items that you get from your fellowship, but there is so much more. Let's talk about the buffs portion that you see in the bottom left over here, the buffs portion of a fellowship is giving you resources. This is freaking huge, man. The amount of resources you can get for each resource type is capped based on the level of your fellowship. And in this case, you can see my fellowship land bonus is 12,000 per resource type. We are at the max in our fellowship because we have lots of players who have taken tiles that give resources to the fellowship. If you wanted to see what one of those tiles looks like, I'm actually on my way to capture one now. This is 300 resources per hour to the whole fellowship, except we're already at the maximum. So there's not actually a whole lot that's going to go on there. By the way, if you want to see my strategy for taking a 230 ring power per hour tile, I'll have a card up in the top and you can check out that video. So if I make my way back to the fellowship screen, you may be wondering, Chisgule, how do you level up the fellowship? Well, in the left portion over here, it shows you the name. It shows you the leader of the fellowship, the number of players, the language that's primarily spoken, and also the experience the fellowship has, along with a message. Now, if I tap the question mark next to the experience, it will show you that when a fellowship, or when its members, defeat armies and mobs, they will gain experience needed to upgrade the fellowship. So you will see, as soon as this battle completes, that I will have gained some experience for the fellowship. Also, you can see I'm doing some sweeping as well. And when I'm sweeping, I'm getting this little marker over here. That is experience for the fellowship. It says commander experience. This is commander experience. And this, I'm pretty sure, is actually fellowship experience. So that's a little weird that it's showing it this way. But I'm 90% sure that this works the way I think it works. I think that's a typo. I don't think that that is commander experience. But let's just watch when we take this. If we get a look at the amount of experience the fellowship has, we're sitting at 361,032. Remember that number because we're about to take this tile and we'll see exactly how much our fellowship experience goes up by and exactly how much experience that these commanders have in the battle report. So here we go. We're about to hit the tile in about 5 seconds. The 2 marches will get there. Each march will basically tackle a different army. And I'm pretty sure Aragorn will help finish up this fight. Yep, there's the draw. Kind of expected that. Aragorn will help with that, and boom, tile is captured. So how much experience would I expect to have gotten here? There's 234 over there, another 310, and that was a savage battle. Good Lord. Mega yikes. Whatever he did to my archers was really, or my master throw was really quite disgusting. Okay, well, and then another 544. So we're looking at a grand total of about 1,000 experience to the fellowship. And lo and behold, we got about a little over 1,000 experience. So that looks like that worked exactly as I expected. I'll make sure that when I watch the replay, that amount of experience roughly adds up. I get that there's 94 other people in the fellowship who could have also done something in that short window. So let's continue on with the functions that your alliance can offer you, or fellowship. It is really a big deal. We talked about the buffs, we talked about the store, we talked about some of the basics in the screen, except the war declaration. We are preparing for war, and when you have declared war, you get offensive advantages when attacking faction-protected regions. In other words, when you go and attack other players' tiles, you do some siege damage, and you do less siege damage than you normally would if you're not at war. So being at war makes it so that you do more siege damage, which actually is pretty important. You can see the other folks that are at war right now, and if I get a look at the details, it explains a little bit of this. You ignore land tiles' faction protection bonuses, dealing normal siege damage, as I was describing. Occupied tiles will enter a temporary conflict status, will not receive faction protection bonuses. The leader of the fellowship can use the support tile in order to facilitate cooperation with other fellowships. This I've not played around with, and I'm kind of eager to see how that works. I think maybe a support tile is something where someone from other fellowships can go to your tiles, maybe. As it stands right now, when you're not at war, you can't actually walk to another fellowship's tile. I'll show that to you. Declaring war is something that takes 6 hours of preparation and then lasts 24 hours. And then after the war's ended, you have to wait 48 hours because there's a cooldown. So You want to use this very wisely when you're going to actually take some actions. The preparation time and duration are visible to all players, as you saw in that little menu off to the side. And new fellowship members will only be eligible to get these benefits after being in the fellowship for 24 hours. In other words, you can't be a sneaky pants and like have one fellowship go to war, and then after the war window ends, everybody leaves and joins another fellowship, which then declares war, and then leave and join another one, and that declares war. Like, they're trying to minimize that cheesiness, okay? So declaring war is something that gives you a strategic advantage, which your fellowship can do, and your fellowship can also build a fortress. Fortresses are massive. It is a structure that your alliance can place, and it can be placed by one of your officers on a land that is a 2x2 tile. So you have to take the 2x2 tile, then you can place the fortress on top of it. So you have to be able to take some relatively strong tiles in order to pull that off. And that's how you're able to build a fort. Once you have a fort, you can see you can dispatch one army to the fort. And it's got a huge radius in which you can do stuff, just like your personal forts operate. You can join this one. You can attack stuff and move around this one like a personal fort, except everyone in your alliance gets one spot in it. It's really quite nice. So if we get a look back now at the other fellowship screens, there's a final screen here, the member list. Now, there's something that you'll notice here. You can see the power production of the players, the contribution of each player. And when they were last online, our alliance leader hasn't been on for 7 days. It's honestly like one of the greatest sins a player can do in a game with an alliance is you create one and then disappear and don't pass off leadership. It's like, without getting into something that sounds way too judgy, I'll just say, I hope that the alliance leadership is automatically handed off to somebody else really soon. Because the reality is that if you are not online within 2 days in this game, like, you should just be removed as leader, period. The end, full stop, no questions asked. I think something happens automatically at the 8-day mark, maybe. We'll find out. But like, a week of not being online is a joke. Leadership of the fellowship should have been passed on automatically by the game in that circumstance. But without that coloring the sort of context of this screen too much, maybe I've talked about that too much already, there are officers colored with the silver helmets. The leader is got a gold helmet over here. And it's very helpful to look at when were people last online to say, how active is this fellowship anyways that you've just joined? And when I'm kicking people to make space for new members, I look at who has not been as active, and like, this Nathu guy would be a prime candidate for kicking if we were out of space, okay? So that's something to keep in mind when you're managing your fellowship. Also, there's an invite and approve screen, and all of the players that are not in fellowships, you actually can hit the little plus here to invite them, which is kind of neat. So you could invite somebody to your fellowship if you wanted to. We do have the spaces. I'm not going to invite anybody because, like, dude, if they can't figure out how to join us and we're the number 1 in our faction and number 2 on the overall leaderboard, like, then they don't need to be here anyways, right? Like, you got to have some basic understanding of the game for us to want to have you in the fellowship. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Did that sound judgy or harsh? It's not intended that way. Now, there is also a record here of some of the things that have been going on with the fellowship. There are battle records, there's membership records, there's also event records, which is pretty cool. So, for example, declaring war, right, is something that is reflected in the fellowship records, which is definitely handy to get a peek at. But knowing all of this stuff about your fellowship will go a long way in helping boost your effectiveness as a player, especially the store, man. I was just avoiding this for weeks on end because I like didn't know how it worked. I was learning all the other stuff in the game, and now I just get free resources for doing stuff I was doing anyways in the game, smashing that little help button, getting extra currency, and it just stacks up so fast. One final thing I'll talk about is that your fellowship's tiles will be in blue. You can dispatch troops to those tiles. You'll see, however, that when I select a purple tile, which is a member of my faction, so I'm the dwarf faction, Erebor, I can't actually march to purple tiles. So I can march to the blue tiles. Fellowship tiles, yes. Faction tiles, no. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, throw a like on here. Consider subscribing for more Lord of the Rings Rise to War videos designed to help you get value and smash your enemies. And if you're looking for videos just about how to take tiles off a card, up in the top for a dedicated playlist covering all of the different tiles you can take. Until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies.